Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Tease. Today, we are digging into the importance of personal branding and looking at some examples in Hollywood, from Wicked to Dancing with the Stars to The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. We'll also be sharing some really popular content ideas that we are seeing right now that are helping creators grow and really connect with their audience. I'm Joanna Newton, co-founder of Millennial Marketer, an agency that helps creators build their own digital products.
And hi, I'm Michelle Poolani Houston, founder of To Be Honest Beverage Company. We're a non-alcoholic functional beverage brand, as well as business and marketing mentor. Let's dive in.
Today, I'm sipping on a pumpkin spice draft latte from La Colombe. It's kind of late for me to be having this much caffeine, but it is the Dancing with the Stars semifinals, so I've got to stay up and watch that because I've been watching that with my family.
Reason to stay committed. I love it. That show is actually pretty entertaining. I used to watch a little bit of it. I can't really get into like television shows right now. I've got like a particular mindset, and the only guilty pleasure I have right now is either like reading or Audible audiobooks for romantasy or romance fiction. And yeah, but that's a really good show. I used to really love So You Think You Can Dance. Did you watch that one?
I watched it a little bit. They're so entertaining every week.
I loved the dance component. And of course you have like their, storytelling in terms of their lives and the things that they do, but love, love, love that show. Today I'm drinking super simple. I've got a crisp
It looks like wine.
Does it? It's not quite noon, but it's noon where you are. So but no, it's the Olipop. They have like a holiday pack out. It's kind of cute, the little design that they do, which has kind of like a Yeti type character and then kind of snow dots. And they have the crisp apple, the ginger ale, and then like a classic cola. I actually really love mixing this with our product, the TBH Focus, because it gives it a little bit of a like more bitter profile as opposed to that sweetness. But today, just crisp apple.
Nice.
Super simple.
Nice.
Very refreshing.
I almost bought that pack at Costco this weekend.
Yeah.
But they had Culture Pop, like big packs, on sale for $4 for the whole thing. Yeah. I bought 3 things of it. My husband was like, "You should have bought more." They were on sale for $4, and when I got up to the register and was like, "Can I just double check the price?" And the ladies that were bringing me out, they were like, "No, it's really $4." And I was like, "Why?" And I'm like, "I checked, it's not expiring soon. Like, why is it $4?" And they said that they think they must have like a new flavor shipping in. So Costco wants to clear it out. So check and see if it's still there at your Costco. $4 for like
Culture Pop. Culture Pop is a soda alternative that is like a prebiotic probiotic option.
Yeah.
I've seen them actually at funny story. So we participate in like local markets and pop-ups for our physical product, the non-alcoholic functional spirit alternative. And we were doing beverages at this event. And Culture Pop has been in partnership with the woman who coordinates the events. And we've met the sales team and like the street team. They're actually super cool. They usually hand out free Culture Pop sodas. With a brand and CPG like that, you have to go high volume. You have to go lots of money invested to be able to get that distribution, to be able to get that brand awareness. And what you're looking is trying to take up as much market share as fast as possible. So the fact that they've dropped the price incredibly is not for profit, is not for gain, right? Like you're trying to get people obsessed with the product and trying the product as quick as possible so that then they continue to purchase from you over time. Because once you have that customer and they like the product, you're looking at making money later on. So kind of an interesting story, but those Culture Pop sodas were being given away for free at an event that we were charging beverages for. And that was the one piece of feedback. And I don't typically like provide super constructive feedback because usually it's like, I know how hard it is to run the event and do this festival in this market and everything else. But I was like, hey, if you have vendors who are paying to be there to sell, don't give away that same product for free. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just kind of an interesting point of reflection and thinking through like your business. What sort of precedent are you setting? Like, are you giving anything away for free that is then to the detriment of your other services or offers?
Yeah.
Being thoughtful about the type of person that you're bringing in and what they're expecting, and then also how you're positioning yourself in front of them.
Yeah. And I think it too matters like your overall brand image, but as well as the stage that you're in. Like what you might need to give away for free when you're starting out versus what you should be giving away for free when you already have a presence aren't always the same thing. And I think that that's something to really keep in mind. Sometimes when I talk to new course creators who are new in the digital space, they're very what's the right word? They're very hesitant to give away their knowledge for free, but they'll have like no audience, no following, no email list yet, and they want to sell a $500 course. And that's a really tough position to be. If you don't have something free or low cost to start to nurture your audience with, it can be really tough to get people to that like higher ticket price point.
Absolutely. I think that we're in an era where it used to be the case where, again, the barrier to entry in the beginning was simply about like consistency, showing up. And if you're putting out information, education of any type, people were going to be drawn to you because the options were limited. We're in an oversaturated market in pretty much every single industry, every single coach, every single service, every single type of content. There isn't a lot out there that is not already done before.
Yeah.
Not to say that you can't be niche and unique and you have a different value proposition. Like, of course, you can find those qualifiers. But ultimately, like, we're in a saturated market across the board. And so the way that you approach your marketing, your positioning, your offers has to be distinct in some way. And we are in the era of like, you got to give away information for free, but just in a certain type of way and not be worried about that. You know what I mean? Like, they always say market the what, right? And then sell them the how. So you tell them and diagnose, like, this is your problem. This is what you're experiencing. This is where you're getting stuck. Like, this is what you want. This is the outcome. But you don't say, like, you take these steps in order to get there necessarily, unless if you have a different business model. I think Alex Hormozi is actually a good example of this, where he gives pretty much so much information, everything away for free as much as possible. Like, he charges for his books, but all of his online digital courses, everything that he does from launches to content to YouTube to all of his things that you get everywhere, the Mosey Minute via email newsletter, that's all free information that he's teaching, educating, coaching. But his ideal client persona is someone who has a successful business that they can acquire, then grow and scale. So you just have to think about, like, what's the information you're giving away for free? It's not what you would sell or someone would pay for, but how then can you get that person into the paid stuff?
Yeah, how does it bridge the gap? Like, does what you're offering for free actually attract the ideal person that you want to be your customer, whatever that is? Because I think that analogy of looking at you give the what away for free and sell the how, that's a really good starting point. But then all of those things need to connect to what you're actually going to sell in the end. You may want to give away the how in your case because you actually want to get people to a stage before you work with them. So if you give the how away for free or at a super low cost in a way to prepare them to be the right customer for you, then that could actually make sense. And breaking that rule might actually make sense for you as long as it makes sense strategically for what you're selling next. Something I work on a lot with clients is, like their ascension ladder. And a lot of gurus or people will give you this, you have to have a $0 and a $7, and then a 27, and then a this, and then a that. And they'll give you a very prescriptive like plan for what your ascension model has to be. But essentially you want to think through how you're getting someone's attention, how they're connecting deeper with you, what's that first step product for them, what's that next step, and map out what you want their journey to be, and then make sure your systems support that journey from step to step, and that those steps actually make sense for that person. And I don't believe in that really prescriptive, you have to have this particular model, but there's a reality that you have you have to put your customers on a journey that makes sense to them. If your lead magnet is like a free how to grow an Instagram guide, but your offer is trying to help them sell on YouTube, there's a disconnect, right? Like that doesn't work. And you're going to be like, why aren't people going from one to the other? Because you're not creating the path for them.
Yeah, it's so important in any type of advertising to have that continuously make sense across your ad, to your website, to the landing page, to the email, to the thing that you get. There should be consistent messaging across the platform, and it needs to make sense to them from a consumer perspective. The other thing is the type of service that you're offering, right? Like, you're a service, you're an agency. You could very well teach the how-to of launch in a YouTube video, but guess what? Not everyone's going to want to do that for themselves.
Yeah.
And so when you're selling a service that does the thing, you want to be explicit in the how. You're giving them transparency about the process and how they could do it for themselves. But through that process, they would realize like how many steps and how much expertise it takes in order to do it. So it's like, okay, well, I understand the how now, but I don't want to do it myself. So I want to pay you to do the thing. So if you're like a coach and you're selling educational materials on, the how of getting fit type deal, is again, you're going to diagnose where they're going wrong in your messaging and your content creation. But because you're offering a product that is based around the knowledge that you have of actually how to get there, then you wouldn't give that away up front. So it depends on the type of business that you are and what are your offers and how are they related to that.
Yeah.
Super important.
Very, very important. Today, I want to talk about Wicked, because Wicked for Good is coming out Thursday.
Mm-hmm. Are you so excited?
I am so excited. Did you watch the first? I know you're a Wicked musical fan. Did you watch the first movie?
I did watch the first movie.
Did you? I'd love to. What's your opinion? Did you love it? Did you hate it?
So I enjoyed it. I don't really know why people would hate it. The thing that I can come up with is that people get very, very attached. I think this happens with books, plays, any type of situation in which there's an expectation and a precedent that has been previously set, right? Wicked is a movie adaptation of a live Broadway musical. And so when you have something that's in the context that someone attaches themselves to, there are characters and, specific actors that have played those roles for a very long time. There have been ways that they've approached each of the songs, certain scenes, even the set and display of how things are done. And I think what happens most predominantly is people don't know how to differentiate and disassociate. Yeah. And so they'll go into whatever that next thing is, usually, again, like book adaptation to a movie, and think that based on the way that they experience that initial introduction of whatever the storyline, the people, the characters is, they're not willing to then see the next version in and of itself. Yeah. They're always going to be comparing. So for myself, I thought Ariana Grande did a phenomenal job with her role. Oh my gosh, Jonathan Bailey. That's his name, right?
I think so.
I think so. I think it's right. He was just named the sexiest man alive. I saw something on Jimmy Fallon about it. It was really cute. So he is an actor that I absolutely adore. And he's so sexy and so wonderful and so charismatic. And I think the way he played the role was fantastic. So I'm forgetting Cynthia
Erivo. Yeah.
Amazing. Cynthia Erivo plays what's her name?
I'm so Alphaba. I'll just fill in the blank.
I know worst details, the worst names and things like that. And Joanna, that's why we compliment each other, especially with this podcast. I'm the worst.
I'm also a total theater nerd, so like I will know all the details.
I'm like stage one. I used to really love theater when I was a kid. I'm a big musical fan. Like, I like it. I'm the same thing with music, artists, movies, etc. I don't have that thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? That je ne sais quoi of, I don't want to say obsession, but
I think you could say obsession. What I think is really interesting about this movie rollout, and I'll call it a movie rollout because they split the musical into two movies. I think that this franchise of the two movies did some very intentional things to get away from, Michelle, what you were talking about, when people have expectations of of a film because they loved the original and it's a remake, it's an adaptation, it's a new piece, people can be very critical of it. And actually, for the most part, the first film, I mean, there's going to be some criticism, but I think the overall feeling towards the movie was pretty positive. Yeah, some people picked on one thing or another, but for adaptation of something and a new version, it got some really good response. And I think some things that it did really that I think is really interesting, to make people like the first part and not be too critical, but then also keep attention up until the second movie. And a couple of things they did was one, first, when the first movie dropped, we knew when the second one was coming. Sometimes when there's parts of movies, like it could be years, but they actually filmed both at the same time very intentionally and it kept that momentum. And then we already knew when the second one was going to come out. The other thing that I think they did was the first movie is pretty true to the original. All of the songs are in it. There's not that many changes to the songs. A little bit of different instrumentation or a riff or things, but like the lyrics, the core, everything was actually pretty true to the Broadway musical. And I think they did that intentionally and didn't really take a lot of risks because they're going to take more risks and changes in the second movie. Because at this point, if people saw the first movie and loved it, they're gonna go see the second. If there's things that they are critical of, well, they've already bought their ticket, because the second movie has 2 new songs that weren't in the show, and I'm guessing there'll be some plot differences. Like, I just am imagining that they're gonna take a few more risks when they go. I guess we can report back because I'm going to see it on Thursday. But, and I think that was really interesting choice for them to make to save all of the new stuff for the second film and not have it in the first.
Interesting. Yeah. I think that one of the things I think about, especially from the marketing perspective of something like this, is leaning into the media circuit and social media.
Mhm.
Because you have to think about, like, how do we hear about things these days? Predominantly social
Yeah.
media. Like, you'll see something and then Google. And of course, there are media outlets and news outlets and things like that. But where I get most of the like initial word, hint, story, typically social media, and then refers back to like, click the link in bio, or you can click out or find this here. As far as the news story surrounding it, and then all of the in-person media interviews and appearances and premieres and all the things that the celebrities take part in are still very much alive when it comes to in person. So obviously this is a digital format. We're consuming a movie. It's on a screen. You go in person, maybe live to watch it at the theater, you stream it at home, but there's still very much a live component that our entertainment world takes part in. And then we get snippets of that, from a social media perspective, whether that's interviews or just like funny
Yeah.
questionnaire comments and things. One of the things I really like is seeing the celebrities related to the movie do like games or engaging interviews. And that's super popular right now. We've actually done this recently in our content, really quick, is just like Jeremy is the one in front, and I'm using my
They're
arms to,
so
like, make a
cute,
drink.
by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. We're trying a whole content creation, which
I really
I
like
want
it.
to before thank you. Before we close out my thing today, I wanna talk about, like, content creation things that are working. But for these larger movies and how they're reaching people and how they're keeping people engaged, honestly has nothing necessarily to do with the movie. Like, Cynthia or Ariana or Jonathan are showing up not as their characters, but they're maybe talking about the show in interviews. But a lot of them are actually not talking about the actual movie.
Yeah.
They're just around the time that Wicked is going to come out, they're showing up on the chicken shop date, or they're showing up on the wings episodes, the hot wings
Yeah.
eating
The
thing.
where they eat the spicy wings.
Yeah, they eat the
Yeah.
spicy wings. So I think that part of the marketing surrounding like these things recently is above and beyond like, these are the songs that are going to be in the movie. Like, this is what the like clips from the movies. You see that too, right? You see little previews, but it's more like the buzz, the conversation surrounding it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that to keep the excitement going between the two movies and make sure I think the second movie will have a better showing in the opening weekend box office than the first because of the work that they've been able to do all year to get people to love the movie, but then also love these actors and these people, right? And it shows how important a personal brand is to get people connected because people know the backstory now of Ariana Grande wanting to play Glinda since she was a little girl, and they know Cynthia's stories, and they know these people, and they wanna go see Ariana Grande be Glinda. They wanna go see Cynthia be Elphaba. It's beyond this just, "Oh, I'm seeing a movie to be entertained." They, like, want to be part of that story. And bridging that gap
Yeah.
and building the personal brand in the movie's marketing is so important and so huge.
Absolutely, and thinking of that for your brand and business is, people talk about like, "Oh, do behind the scenes, do your founder story, talk about your background," and I know that we as individuals in our businesses, we often get tired of that because it feels like we're repeating ourselves, we're constantly putting the same things out there, and then we have to think about like, "Okay, well, how am I gonna talk to my customer, and how am I going to present my product in a really unique way, and how am I going to position my offer and do all these things?" And we get a little bit too overwhelmed and tend to overcomplicate. I have a client that recently came on where she's a local purveyor of Afghan based cuisine. And so she comes from Afghanistan. She has this beautiful story of getting out of Afghanistan, having her daughter, moving to the US. She's based here in San Luis Obispo, which is our town, and she has culinary skills that lends toward cooking classes. She does catering and private events, and she does pop-ups, and she does these different things to present the Afghanistan-based cuisine. It's beautiful. And so when I was first initially talking to her, and we're talking about where she positions herself, how she markets herself, like what she does for content creation, all of the things that I do from a marketing and business perspective, it's so beautiful, her story. And those are the things often as individuals that we take for granted and that we don't use in our marketing because we're like, "Oh, well, people don't want to hear about that." Or, I should not talk about like what they're going to get out of the program. Yes. And share your story. Like people are connected to your story. People are connected to your background. People want to feel the struggles. We talk about that story arc of the hero and your experience and your ability to put that into words and to get people to connect with the emotion of why it is that you do, what it is that you do, how you've evolved to the place that you are, such an important part of your marketing. And you can see it in almost all of the successful brands and businesses and content creators and the things that we see, online, like you were talking about, Ariana Grande and Cynthia, and how they're connected to Wicked in such a larger way than just, "Oh, I just wanted to play this role,"
And it's a paycheck and it's all of those things. And that's why we started this conversation mentioning that I'm going to be watching Dancing with the Stars tonight. That's what makes Dancing with the Stars such a success, right? Because we're taking all of these celebrities and normally these aren't the biggest celebrities, right, that go on Dancing with the Stars, but we're taking all these celebrities, all these personalities, and you're getting energy from all of those different fan bases coming into and watching the show. And they don't, at the end of the day, it's not just about who's the best dancer. It's about who has a great story, who's activating their fans on social media to vote, what's happening on social media in between episodes, what is that story behind it. And this season, Andy Richter stayed very long on the show as not a very good dancer, but it was because of the way he connected with the audience and told his story and improved week to week. And then there were people online who were angry that he was still on, saying it's not fair this person goes, right? And you have this conversation that's based on people. It's not just ratings and scores, it's storytelling and humanness, right? And ABC did something so interesting. There were two people on the show that were in that are in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And they've like overlapped. So the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives came out, and I don't watch that show, but it came out, and now there's all of this conversation because there were two girls on this season, and that season is talking about them being excited about being on Dancing with the Stars and that process, right? And it's fascinating to watch because now the girl that's still on is like getting all of this hate because I guess she only went back, Whitney Leavitt only went back to Secret Lives of Mormon Wives because they said, well, if you do one more season, we'll let you do Dancing with the Stars. And so now they're like, there's all this talk about her being like conniving and manipulative and all of this stuff, which is only going to breed more views and more excitement and more people to watch, which is just kind of fascinating to watch from like a story perspective.
So I've never been one who's into like gossip, reality television, but the majority of people are actually very interested in other people's business. I mean, really, like it's why we have influencers. Like we are weirdly obsessed with what other people do with their lives and time and choices and things like that, whether it's real or not. And I've thought about this a lot because I always feel like I'm showing up online more so in terms of like, oh, I have to be this certain type of personality, or I've got to present myself in this way, or I've got to maintain a certain level of professionalism and do these things. And I want to do this tactfully. And so that's why I struggle with it is like, how do I integrate this in a way that's like not cringe / is more representative of me in like an authentic way? But if you can kind of lean into that like little bit of like gossipy nature of like, oh my gosh, did you see or this thing? Or how can you integrate? And I've been reading a lot of, again, romance novels and thinking about like, okay, what are the common through lines? What are the human experiences? What are the tropes? What are things that over and time again work to kind of capture people's attention and get them invested? You know, it's like as you're closing out a chapter, what is the ending so that you're like, oh my God, I have to read the next chapter right now. Like, what's going to happen? What is that kind of like point of obsession where people are so interested in what you're talking about? And how can you turn your own personal stories or your case studies for your clients into gossip? Like in a way that just makes people so interested that they want to consume your content. They want to consume your marketing. They want to read your emails. They're looking forward to opening your next Substack. Like that's what you're trying to create. It's not just education. It's not just information, but it's a way to captivate and hook and like pull them in.
And we should talk about your content now because I've noticed that shift for you in the TBH content. And you did that little, I'll pull up a piece of content of yours where you did that skit with like, it's like a skit with you and your husband. And like, it's like when your wife gives you that look, right? You know, and you like wink or something. And then he's like, goes to make you a drink. And then it's like, you know, cheeky and fun because like the hook is making you think of one thing, but then you're actually just getting a beverage, right? But like that kind of stuff is a way you can in your content because you're a husband-wife team. Like you can play on that. You can have those skits. They don't have to be a real life situation, like what actually happened. You don't have to be like, this is what we fought about. Like, and the truth is, if you think Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is real and that Whitney Leavitt is really some sort of nasty villain, like you don't get reality TV because it is, they play roles, right? Like it's fun.
And production value. That's editing, that's production, that's curating based on a producer's viewpoint of what they think will work and get ratings.
Yeah. And people have to fit roles and jobs and all of that in a story. But you can take your personal experiences, like Michelle, you can take you and your husband's personal experience working on this business together and interacting with this product together and turn it into elevated extra versions of what really happens to give people that like, I mean, it's like voyeurism, right? People want to watch behind the scenes and what's happening. And it doesn't have to be the real behind the scenes, but it can be inspired by what's really happening in your life.
Yeah, which brings us to our content creation conversation. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is just sort of common themes that I'm seeing in content pieces that are being incredibly successful right now. So obviously, like, there are all different kinds of styles and approaches and different ways that you can do your content and your marketing from a social media strategy. But some of the things that I'm seeing that are still either consistently successful or maybe like newer to our social media scene, but that are capturing that attention. And I think all of them almost share some type of emotional, relatable storytelling component to them that makes them successful. So the first one is actually one that's been around for quite a while, but it's something that takes something that has been proven successful. I was having this conversation with another client recently in terms of they were talking about like their approach to marketing and coming up with ideas and everything else. And I think sometimes we think like, oh, well, I have to be unique. I have to be interesting. And you and I have both seen a ton of people in person. And then, of course, we've done a ton of coaching, podcast. Like, we've listened to a lot of people in the space, people who have millions and millions of subscribers, followers, who make millions of dollars in the digital space. And they talk a lot about replicating what's already been successful. So stitched content, I still see very consistently. And when you find a content piece or a video that already has reach and engagement, it's because they typically have a successful hook. So you are just using that hook at the beginning of your video, and then you're adding your take, your opinion. There's a fitness guy that I follow that I absolutely love. He's hilarious. He has this cute pit bull, and he's in his home gym, and he takes these very viral fitness activities, and then he tries to replicate them, but it's like hilarious, and he struggles, and it's just so cute with his dog that I absolutely love. But that stitch style, using what's already been successful by someone else and then putting your spin on it and responding as the expert, the authority, or again, the engaging content creator, however that looks like, is one of the styles that I see be very successful.
Yeah, and when you're stitching content, right, of something that's already popular, that hook might have a recognizable face. It's been a hook that works. I think it also shows that you're part of the conversation. So you're being active and part of the conversation of whatever platform you are. And then I think that without having to say, what do you think at the end of your video or ask for replies, it invites replies because you're adding to the conversation. So then someone else wants to add to your conversation because you're having a conversation. You're not just like speaking to the abyss. You're commenting on something that's currently happening. And I think that can just be so effective for people.
Definitely adds that desire for more of like a back and forth, or seeing the first piece and having a thought already about that first piece because it inspires that, and then putting yours into the mix. It totally works that way. The other one that I've seen a lot recently, and this is kind of more like our next gen era of like what I feel like is a younger population, is a statement. So it'll be like a statement on screen. For example, there was one that was like, quote unquote, puts it in quotes. It says, "I really hope my boyfriend is rich." And then the next ones are like rich in attention, rich in adventure, rich in, and they list these things out. And then, of course, there are videos related to it. But there are a lot of statement type pieces where either you see the statement and that's something you identify for yourself, or it's the counter to. So the cute one this guy did that is like, "Hey, babe, let's get Chipotle tonight." And then he makes Chipotle at home as more like a home-cooked meal. And so he's talking about like home-cooked meals and caring for women and like taking care of yourself and that type of deal. And so the statement is pulling someone in that either says, "Oh, I am this person and I relate to that and I want it too." Or again, it's the counter of that thing. But all it is just like a quote of some relatable sentiment.
Yeah, like a quote or statement. And what you're going for with those is getting a reaction. So your statement might give someone like a negative reaction, and then you're like, "Oh, wait, it's not actually negative." And it gets you hooked in. I saw this video that made my blood boil for a split second when I heard it. And then I thought about it and I was like, this person is right. And the hook was just so good that it got me because she said something like, I wish I remembered the exact quote, but she said, "If you wear sweatpants every day, how can you expect to be the main character in your life?" And I heard it was that was the hook. And I wear sweatpants a lot of days. And I was like, that's not true. I can close deals in my sweatpants, which I do close deals in my sweatpants, but I also do like I'm normally very put together from here up. But then
halfway up.
halfway up. But then I thought about it. So at first I was like deeply offended. And then I thought about it for a second and I was like, you know what? Like, she's right. And I'm not saying I'm not going to wear sweatpants if nobody's going to see my pants anyway. But there's something about how you show up. And if you want to be the main character of your life, you should act like one. You should dress like one. You should present like one. And like, what kind of sweatpants would a main character wear at home? Cute ones. Do you know what I mean? Like, right? They're gonna, and thinking about that, and that content made me think. It made me react. She could have started the video saying, if you want to show up as a main character, make sure you're not wearing sweatpants every day. That would have been like way less effective than the way that it was delivered. It was delivered in kind of like an offensive way to hurt my feelings, but then it made me listen and think, okay, that's something to actually think about.
Yeah, I think it's called thought reversal content. It's some of the best authority building content for your brand is stating something that directly goes against a belief that someone has, right? And you try to do it like, again, not in a way that's like putting that person down necessarily, right? She didn't say like, if you're wearing sweatpants every day, you're a slob, because that's just like a negative comment. But she's talking about like the outcome. You want to be the main character of your life. And then she's relating something to it that maybe you didn't even process before, but then is changing your mind. Super powerful in creating the authority for the type of person that you're looking to talk to. This is another one is we see a lot of like storytelling from a look back and lessons perspective, which shows like a transformation. So there's a few ways that you can do this. And I've seen it as like, oh, I just turned 35. Here's what I would tell my 25-year-old self. And then mostly in the caption, it goes into like the lessons you've learned, or, 31 lessons from 31 years lived, something like that. And then it's associated with video that is just either on the background, whether that's yoga or you're adventuring or anything else. And then you see a lot of that are storytelling of like the before after, the transformation, or like if I was an expert in blank, that here's what I would tell you if I wasn't afraid of hurting your feelings, which is kind of a different approach to still telling someone like, this is the lesson, this is what's to be learned, like this is what you need to pay attention to, but not in a direct way. It used to be like, if you're struggling with back pain, you need to do these things. Instead of now, we're seeing it more like, as someone who had back pain for 10 years, these are the things that I wish that I'd known. You know what I mean? Like we're taking a totally different approach, which is really that learning experience over time, or sharing that story over time from your perspective and what worked for you. Again, making it relatable to what it is that they want to learn, they want to go through, but then shares that kind of vulnerable aspect of, this is my before and this is my after, and this is what happened for me.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they're making content and it doesn't take off and it doesn't perform and they don't get reactions, they tend to like give up or stop posting or stop thinking about it. But thinking about these different skills and posting types and different things and adjusting your content is such an important practice. There's a level at which if you have your profile set up nicely, you're posting content, you're consistent, right? That's like step one. Make sure like your bio's clear, make sure you're posting consistently, make sure your topics and your messaging are consistent. And then when you're there, if you're not seeing growth, you're not seeing engagement, you have to narrow in to the content itself. Like look at your hooks. Look at some of these content types that we're talking about? Is there a way you can incorporate them to bring in more engagement? Because you can say, oh, it's just the algorithm. Oh, it's just the algorithm till the cows come home. But the algorithm responds to people engaging, people watching, people commenting, people sharing, people liking. If people aren't watching your videos, the algorithm doesn't like your videos. And that's not the algorithm's fault. Like, to put it very bluntly, you have to be more interesting. And you might have all of the knowledge in the world, but if you're not packaging it in a way that someone wants to watch it, no one's going to watch it. And then you're not going to achieve your business goals. So getting good at crafting your content is important. And yes, there are experts out there. And yes, there are people that can help you with this. But I think this is one of the tasks the content creator needs to be the driver of. I've worked with people who expect me to drive that. And let me tell you, I am good at what I do, but that is very hard for me to do because I can write scripts and give advice and say that till my eyes turn blue. Is that the right phrase?
I mean, technically it's eyes bleed,
My
but I
eyes
kind of
bleed. I like till my eyes turn blue. I could say it till my eyes bleed, but if they're not going to do it and deliver, I can never get them their results. I can you like and it's this thing. So if you are the face, if you're putting yourself into that role, you need to work it and you need to understand this.
I've worked with clients who have expected the exact same thing. And, I can help with setting the video up and I can help with being there and I can help direct you. And like you said, script. And yes, you're going to get success, but you have to buy into what it is that you're doing. And I think it's the best skill set that any online person, if you want a personal brand, if you're bringing your services online, like you got to get good at that stuff. Alex Hormozy and everything else, like, they have huge teams. They spend a lot of money, but guess what? They're still the ones who are improving their ability to speak on screen. They're still improving the way that they deliver hooks and understanding what is the first thing that you say, what's the next thing that you say, how do you close, how do you get people to keep paying attention? Where is your attention? Where is your focus? What is your body doing? Like things like that are important in your delivery and that content creation as a whole. Even just developing ideas and brainstorming is like, where are you data mining that content so that you know that people are going to be interested in the topic that you're choosing and what you're bringing to the forefront.
Yeah.
With next piece of style of content that's incredibly successful, we've seen this in our digital brand in terms of e-commerce. I've seen it in our personal brand is POV or when the blank. So you're basically setting the context for a situation, event, happening, something, again, that you're speaking to your ideal client that they can relate to in some way, and then showing the behind the scenes or showing that experience of whatever that perspective is.
And what's really important with POV content is that it needs to be the point of view of your ideal client and not you. We talked about this last week. Like, you are not, was it last week? Like, you are not your customer.
I feel like it's come up a couple times when we talk about like graphic designer and, the coach or the expert. We've talked about it a couple of times. Which is, hit subscribe, click Tease podcast. So you get this every single week.
Every single week, we show up with our marketing hot takes, updates, and all of the things. But yes, if you are making that point of view content, it needs to be something your target audience will relate to, not something you will relate to. So if I did POV like about my discovery calls, well, like that doesn't make sense. I'm not looking for people who want people to hire them to work on Kajabi for them, right? I want to find the course creator. Like, my POVs need to be about a course creator's feelings, what a course creator would relate to, what that business owner would relate to. For this podcast, same thing. We don't do POV type content right now. Maybe some day we should. But if we were doing POV content, it wouldn't be of a podcast host. It would be of the people listening to our podcast who we're sharing advice and insights and who are looking for marketing advice. So like small business owners, coaches, content creators, course creators, that's the POV we need to have. And because we're also those things, that makes it natural for us because we are business owners, we are course creators. So there's like a natural fit, but that's the POV we need to be taking.
Absolutely. And you're always remembering, who am I talking to? Who am I drawing in? What is that person thinking? What are their beliefs? What are their struggles? What are their pain points? What's the transformation? What's the outcome that they desire? You center on those things. And yes, you do behind the scenes, but always in the context of how does it benefit my ideal client? How does it benefit my audience, right? The last thing I'll close on for video specific content that I see is really successful are reaction videos. So where they're on screen and another video is playing and they're responding as the expert authority. Really great for coaches, really great for service providers, really great for people that are trying to sell any educational content because they're creating this sense of, again, authority and expertise. And I know what I'm talking about here. This is a fitness video and they're doing this. Or this is a relationship video and they're doing this. And then you're responding. So again, you're pulling content that is going to already attract someone, and then you know that they're going to say something. So you're not sure what they're going to say. So you're getting invested in, again, like the watch time of like, okay, well, I'm seeing the initial thing. I know that someone's going to reply. So my brain is like, I want to stick around for that reply. Yeah. So very helpful in garnering attention, engagement, because now they're reacting to either the first video, similar to Stitch, but different.
Yeah. And doing things to get that watch time up, get people up past the few seconds, that's what helps in the algorithm. So if you're that person who's saying, oh, the algorithm, it just hates me, are you doing things to get people to watch? That's why a lot of trending sounds can be really good, especially if you notice a lot of trending sounds and trending songs have this like elongated moment with like a punchline. So, and it gets you to watch. So how it became a trending song is because of that, because it elongates that watch time where you're like, in the music and the tone of whatever's happening, that you're waiting for something to happen. So a way to think about that is how in your content can you get people to wait for the punchline, wait for that moment, and expect to have to wait. So those like reaction videos, they're watching something and you're like, what are they going to say? What are they going to say? And it increases that watch time.
Yeah. And these are all things. The reason that I want to learn and like bring these things up and research is because I want to get really good at this. I have realized as much as I know about marketing and from a technical standpoint and perspective, and have coached and consulted and help other people establish strategies and positioning and messaging, it's always for me a lot easier as a third party perspective to be able to help other people assimilate information and then implement, right? But for yourself, it can be hard to take this in and fully understand it and the output. And so as I'm looking at these content creation like themes, the way that people relate and putting the pieces together, it's my goal to take my personal brand and our physical product business and really establish a strong foothold of brand awareness and success in the digital space through these practices. And like we said, it's a skill set that you create. It's something that you have to identify as this is something that I'm going to have in my tool belt, not just for today, but for years to come, understanding the principles and foundation of marketing, of messaging, of positioning, of offer creation, of value proposition. That is what's important for your business. Like you need to understand those things. And whether today it is fitness, tomorrow it is relationships, next year it is a physical product that you want to create or a service that you want to offer, or now you want to be an agency, it doesn't matter. Understanding these principles is always, always going to serve you. And so I think instead of focusing on trying to learn a particular software as the business owner, it's more important that you understand the tools of marketing, of messaging that you can then take into anything else that you do.
It's so important. Your personal brand is the foundation for everything. And if you have that personal brand, like you said, Michelle, it doesn't matter what you do. You can build digital products. You can sell your services. You can do what you need to do if you have that personal brand establishment. And that's not something a freelancer can replace. That's not something a software tool or AI can take from you. That is something you have to own and you have to learn as the business owner. So thank you so much for staying tuned to this week's episode of Click Tease. If you want to learn more and more about how to create content that converts and stay on top of trends, please subscribe and share this with a friend who you think could need it.